All right, well, joining us now to talk a bit more about the Games is the former director of the International Olympic Committee, Michael Payne. Michael, thanks very much for coming on to speak to us. You've been following all the developments leading up to Tokyo 2020. As a former high-ranking IOC official, can you tell us just how difficult has the organisation been for these Games?
Well, this is my 20th Olympic Games, summer and winter, and I think it's fair to say the postponement has made these Games, from an operational standpoint, by far the most complex and difficult Games ever to be staged. And that is with an organising committee that was recognised as also being the most prepared, the best organising committee the IOC has seen. But to turn everything on its head, to postpone, and then to drive forward and stage these Games with the pandemic still in play around the world has been a remarkable challenge. But I think everybody is now very happy that we're here in Tokyo. The atmosphere in the village is fantastic, because the athletes who were scared that the Games might be cancelled have now realized that they're going ahead, that they will have their moment as an Olympian, and are very, very excited about that.
Right, but on the other side, when it comes to what we've heard a lot from the Japanese people and the risks that these Games can pose, when we look at some of the surveys, the number of people who actually want the Games to go ahead seems to be minimal. What do you understand their concerns?
Well, I think the moment Japan wins their first gold medal, you will see a tremendous turn in support for the public. I've actually been speaking to Japanese journalists over the last day or two, and it's not as black and white as being reported that so many people are negative to the Games. What they are negative towards, frankly, is the Japanese government, because there is a lot of anger that there was such a slow vaccine rollout. The communications has been very poor, and frankly, the decision not to let spectators into the stadium seems to be far more political than from a health standpoint, because you've still got spectators in the baseball stadium, in the sumo wrestling stadium, and it's unfortunate that with an election coming up in a couple of months, so many decisions are taken as much for a political reason than perhaps for a health reason.
So when you mentioned the government and its communication in that way, and the elections coming up and the political side to it, what do you think that the government should have done in relation to the position that it has put itself in throughout the lead up to these Games?
Well, I think, first of all, there was surprise that it took so long to have the vaccine rollout. Everybody knew that for the Games to go ahead smoothly, that the world was coming here, that they needed to get the population vaccinated. The international community is fully vaccinated. I think the Japanese government, the media here locally allowed for a level of paranoia to be built up that these foreigners are going to import the vaccine and create a risk throughout Japan. I mean, to be honest, we're all locked up in a bubble, and frankly, there's far greater risk of us meeting Japanese than the Japanese meeting us. The numbers of incidents is still very low. If you compare what's happening through in Europe, I mean, in England and other countries, they're running 50,000 or more incidents a day. Here in Tokyo, with a population of more than 20 million people in metropolitan Tokyo, it's not even 1,600, 700 incidents a day. So there's been unnecessary sort of paranoia that's been fueled and created panic. But equally, we've seen in the last couple of days that fundamentally the Japanese people are very passionate about the Olympics. They're angry about the process of getting here, but I think you're going to see that public support turn.
All right, and so in your latest book, you talk about all the mishaps of the Olympics over the past 40 years, everything that's really going on behind the scenes that we don't actually see. Do you feel that, in your experience from what you've gained so far, how is Tokyo 2020 going to go down in history?
Well, first of all, it will go down as great sporting performance and new heroes coming through. But obviously, they're staged under the the shadow of COVID, and you can't ignore that. You can't ignore the fact that the stadiums are going to be empty. But if you're talking to the broadcasters, all of the world's broadcasters here, they're expecting and forecasting that they will have record global audiences, that these Olympics will be the most watched games ever. And whilst there are no spectators in the stadium, what the broadcasters have gone and done is put broadcast cameras in all the homes of the athletes, so that you will actually see each village, each home celebrating their athlete's victory. And I think in that sense, you will have an incredible 2-week digital celebration of humanity coming together. So there's great sport. I think a whole new way of presenting the world coming together, being forced through because of staging these games in unprecedented circumstances of the pandemic.
Right, so games like no other, like we've ever seen before. So you can confirm that this does feel like it is Olympic Games. We are going to be able to enjoy it, and fans are going to be able to enjoy it in a similar way that they have done, of course, in the previous editions.
I think people are going to see an incredible 2 weeks of sport, new sporting heroes coming through. The broadcast technology that is being introduced at these games will take the presentation from the visual to the audio to a whole new level. Some of it's actually been fast-tracked again by COVID, that they've been forced to look at new ways to present the sporting coverage. And I think people are going to see the most incredible show.
All right, well, let's hope that we see plenty of great sporting competitiveness and everything throughout the games. Thank you very much, Michael Payne, for coming on to speak to us. Let's